Madam Chair and members, Bill Lucia with Ed Voice. I'll try not to be repetitive, so just focus on a couple of points. You've received our letter. We would like to acknowledge the opportunity to provide input and staff's willingness to listen. And we, as was pointed out in earlier testimony, one of the concerns, guilty as charged, we were one of the folks concerned about non-compliance with the current system. And we still see that there's a potential problem of that continuing on. And so we think that that's an area specifically that needs to be further addressed. Also, we point out to the committee, and we did in our letter, that in opposition, we note that there's not a single school district in California or charter school that would now be subject to the proposed new changes. And so we're not aware of anywhere, not only in California, but anywhere in the nation where this is a best practice scheme in terms of evaluating teachers. So we think that particularly with no authority for State Board of Education waivers, that puts a significant dilemma in the face of the, if nothing else, even the cost issue of a whole-scale change for every single school district and every single charter school in California to do something different. Poway was mentioned earlier. Poway and San Diego City Unified, they have very similar evaluation rubrics. They have multiple boxes, and if any teacher or principal is found in need of improvement in below standard in every aspect as under current law, there's an obligation by the district to be very specific to the nature in which the standard is not being met and provide written documentation of how they're going to work together and endeavor to assist that employee to get better and improve. So we think that that system, that there's an examples of those systems that are being worked on, as was just mentioned, between management and labor that are already underway and would have to be scuttled as in print, if the bill were to go forward. Then I would be remiss if not mentioning this, and I think it's actually a very watershed important thing to underscore, which is as much as continuous improvement is important, and that is a component of the STUL Act that the state currently lives underneath. It is also about a job performance evaluation, because it's the process of a job performance evaluation that is, in fact, the addition to the Skelly rights that are provided and enumerated in the statute for someone to be determined in permanent status and ultimately, if not effective, be potentially subject to adverse action and corrective action as a matter of law. So it is a piece of due process.
Could you sum up?
And so for those reasons and the hope that our opposition concerns and some of the other opponents can still be worked on, but at this point in time, we do have some very bright line opposition to this measure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Any other opposition? Yes. Mm-hmm.
Madam Chair and members, Rand Martin on behalf of the California Charter Schools Association advocates. Charter schools already do this. It's statutorily required. We're doing it pretty well. We don't see a reason to be added to it. We would remove our opposition if charter schools were amended out of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brad Strong, Children Now, opposed to the bill.
Carlos Machado with the California School Boards Association, opposed to the bill as well.
Brett Barley with Students First, opposed to the bill.
Jeff Vaca, California Association of School Business Officials, in opposition to the bill.
Leticia Garcia with Riverside County Schools, in opposition.
Good afternoon. Edgar Sasueta on behalf of Los Angeles Unified School District, also opposed to the bill.
Okay. Any other opposition? Okay. Any comments from the committee? Let's hear. Okay. I have a couple of questions, and I guess a couple of concerns because of the stuff I'm reading from the opposition, and maybe you can answer that. Couple of things. One, does this nullify the STUL Act? In other words, the STUL's concern that there has to be evaluation based on student progress. Does this bill do that? Does it? It does?
Yes, it does. As my understanding is, well, it does. It replaces the STUL Act.
And the STUL Act says that there has to be, there's evaluation based on student performance, basically, right? And so we would no longer have that as a standard?
No, we would still have the standards. This has the standards in it.
But okay, what would be the difference then in the STAL with regards to student performance? Because that's a major issue, I think, in evaluation. So
I don't think there's any difference with regard to student performance.
So this puts student learning in the center of evaluation.
Yes, and I know that's a very big concern of yours, and mine too. So I thank you for expressing it, and it does put student learning at the center.
Okay, then what's the 10% thing that, and I'm responding to these questions I'm getting.
Right.
There's a discussion that 10% is student performance, basically achievement, or a possible variable that could be as low as 10%.
It has varying levels of student performance and teacher performance, and it measures them each at 10%. That's what the bill does. Some like it. Some liked it at the beginning. They wanted it taken out.
So it could
we
be
talked
as
about
low
taking it
as-
out. Then
it could be as low as 10%.
I'm sorry?
It could be as low as 10%.
It can be low as 10%, yes.
For the evaluation of a teacher, 10%, it could be as low as
Well,
10%.
there's different categories, each at 10%. Sorry?
At least 10%.
They're at least 10%.
10%, that would be student performance. And the rest would be a variety of other things that would not be student performance, like adjustment to,
A CSTP.
beg pardon?
A CSTP,
Yes, those are variables.
California Standards for the Teaching Profession.
Right, so that our student learning piece could be as low as 10% of evaluation. This requires, this bill is going to be dependent upon, I guess, funding? No? Yes? So,
Well, it's going to need
PAR?
funding. It's going to need funding.
and without PAR, it does what? Very little? Nothing?
Well, it relies on PAR. PAR is built
Okay.
in to the
Was-
equation here.
Okay. So it relies upon that. Okay. And basically, the evaluation, as pointed out, would be involved in teacher negotiations, would basically determine the system that's going to be used for every district. And without, some argue that the system, it won't be implemented at all because we won't have the funding to implement it. What's your position on that? Is that correct?
I think you will have the funding to implement it. You have a program now that you're funding.
Right.
For sure. So if we supplant it, what was the other question?
Some are arguing that it won't be implemented without adequate funding, so that we'll basically have no system.
Well, it will be implemented. Again, you can't. The bargaining question's been kind of confusing up here because I don't really understand where they're coming from because you cannot bargain away provisions of this bill.
Okay.
It has to be implemented by July 1st of 2018.
Okay.
And there's even another provision in there that says you can't kick your contract down the road. In other words, extend it out so that you can avoid the provisions of this bill.
Okay.
And again, that was taken through a lot of comment through
Right.
some of the people who came up here today and are now opposed to it. They heavily participated in the meetings with regard to this bill.
Okay.
We took many of their suggestions.
Okay.
And I would just comment, if everybody's attacking it, I think I'm in a pretty good place right now.
Okay. Mr. McCarty, Mr. Thurman, did you have
This has
a question?
changed, Ms. Weber. It's not easy.
No, I know change is never easy.
Designing change is
Yeah.
even harder, I can assure you that.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Mr. Chair. And to that point that you were just making about change being difficult, how will technical assistance roll out to assist, districts and teachers and as people move to the timeline to have had this completed?
The State Board of Education is required to provide assistance, and I know the good superintendent of public instruction next to me is willing to be helpful as well. I'm confident of that.
Yes. And we have a website where we share best practices. We just updated my digital chalkboard, and across the field of various types of curricular efforts and teacher development efforts, we want to catalog some of the best practices and ideas and would work with the school districts and the county superintendents to collect those and post those.
Superintendent Twillickson, with your 10 years of time in the classroom and your 30 years as a coach, I'm sure you're eager to be coaching on this, and I appreciate that commitment. Is there room, to the author and to you, sir, is there room as this is, because it's new, and there will be bumps in the road, as there are with any new implementation, will there be room to accept the feedback from teachers and administrators and other students and others who want to give feedback as it's being rolled out? Will be an opportunity to incorporate that feedback to help make it a more sound program as we roll it out?
Absolutely. In fact, the bill, built into the bill, are opportunities for the public to participate throughout the life of the law. And that's unique. And when it has to be public, local public hearings where the public gets to offer input with regard to this.
I thank you for clarifying that. I was wondering if the hearings were also hearings that were, sort of like taking the show on the road statewide. So what you're saying is the hearings really are responsible at the local education level to do it in the community and publicly, so there'd be input on the process. Very good. I have no more questions, Madam Chair, Mr. Chair.
What are the chances? I've looked at the bill, and there's a lot of it that I like, and I know it's a lot of hard work that's gone into it. It always is anytime you're doing something like this. And I had actually, and I still haven't decided as I sit here, come prepared to support it and to move forward, because I think the conversation is important to move forward. My greatest fear is the 10% for achievement. That is my greatest fear. And I say that because we don't have a system now that makes us feel accountable for student performance. And the STUL does say that each teacher is to be evaluated on the progress of students, okay, that they make every year. And the fact that we've reduced it to such a low, we haven't done that, but it could be reduced to such a low percentage, when it almost as if our business of education is not about educating kids. If 10%, if you went home to your wife and said, I'm going to love you 10% of the time, she would say, you don't love me at all. I mean, because you could love anything 10% of the time. But it would be difficult to believe that center of what we do is to improve the academic performance of our children if a district has the ability to relegate it to 10%. I don't think, Mr. Torlakson, you could be superintendent of the state of California if you told the people of California that you're going to be concerned 10% of the time on the performance of its children. I don't think they would have elected you. I think because you told us that you're going to be 100% concerned about it, and that's going to be the center and focus of your energy, people wanted you to be our superintendent. So for me, I could buy almost everything somewhat, but that. I can't. And I came here to vote for the bill. I really did. I came here to say, let's keep this agenda going in the conversation. But I can't give 10% to our kids knowing how much they suffer. Right. I just can't.
Well, Ms. Weber.
Tell me how I can. Please help me.
Madam
Seriously.
Chair, listen, the 10% floor, not ceiling, remember.
I understand.
The floor
I understand that.
is still a point of conversation. Okay?
Yeah, but it's a possible conversation. That's my only problem.
With O'Donnell, it's not possible. I always talk to people. But listen to what we heard up here. We had one individual say it's too specific.
I understand that.
We had one individual say it's not specific enough.
No question.
And then we had another individual that said don't do anything.
Right, exactly. But 10% is not enough. I mean,
well, you can't have every quarter, every category 100%.
You know what? But you could put children in the center so that they're the major portion of what we do, which is to talk about the progress of our students toward academic excellence. And it's like telling when we went to a conference and someone from Trade Tech told us that 93% of the students can't pass the proficiency test in Trade Tech. I explained to them that is not a system at all. You have a 7% success. If my car ran 10% of the time, I don't think I'd have a car. I mean, there's just 10% is just so small. Even if it's just an option, it's such a small percentage of performance category that it's like no performance at all. I mean, maybe I'm wrong in that, in viewing achievement in that light. But I think if I put my child in a school and they told me you have a 10% chance of having your child proficient when they graduate, I'd find another school. I mean, I just would. The number is so low, and that's what I'm looking at, whether or not there's this flexibility to move this conversation to a bigger number in terms of
Ms. Weber.
performance, because we're an educational institution. That ought to be the center of what we do, not the periphery.
Okay. The percentage thresholds have been a point of conversation since the beginning. At the beginning, some wanted them. We put them in there. Then later they said, no, we don't want them. Okay, we left them in there. Listen, I'm willing to certainly negotiate. I'm willing to take them out. Okay, I'm not married to the percent, the thresholds. I'm not married to them. I'm willing to work with you on it.
It has to be a bigger piece. I mean, you know, and maybe I'm wrong in how I see this, but you know, I see it as a parent. As a parent and as a grandmother too. Right, that's what I'm saying. And if someone came to me and gave me 10% quality for my kids, I wouldn't take it. I'd go look for something else. You know, if they gave me 10%, I mean, unless you're going to give me 10% of a gazillion dollars, if I wanted, then I'd take that, because that would be in itself better than what I have. But if it's the other things of life, you know, I'm going to have some problems with it. But that's my real concern. I see a lot of work here. And I don't want, I don't want to skip over the piece of student performance and excellence, because that's what we do. At least that's what this public thinks we're going to do for their children. That all of our training and staff development and resources we're going to put in PAR, and we're looking at PAR at the budget, to be very honest with you. And all those things that we do are really targeted toward getting us to the point where we can have some sense of assurance that there's a quality performance or quality outcome for our kids. And 10% outcome, I don't think any of us would put it on a brochure if we were running for office, that we're going to improve our kids, that we're going to be concerned 10% of the time about the education of our kids. I think if we said that, most of us know we would not get elected to anything that dealt with children. You agree with me, Mr. Tarkson? I see you shaking your head. I mean, it has to be a bigger percentage. It has to be the center of what we do. It should be.
I mean, would you want 100% to be testing?
No, I don't even think testing is it, but I think that there are various things that
should be a component of it. It
has to be a component, but there's so many other pieces. But there are a lot of things that get us toward excellence for kids. And that's what we need to be focusing on. And, you know, that having been said, I don't want to belabor my point. I think I've made my point. If I give you my support today, I hope it's because we're going to continue to work on this. We're going to take that 10% much, much higher. We're going to deal with some of the issues that others have raised here. I wouldn't throw STUL out just to take on something that did not put kids at the center. The strength of STUL is that it does do that. It doesn't do a whole lot else because it doesn't have a lot of teeth to it. But if you read it, it's a good concept. And in terms of it saying, you know, we have to evaluate people on the performance of progress that students make, you know, which is a good concept. We just haven't taken the bull by the horn at any level and made that happen. But I think we have to look at that, and that's a major concern for me. Okay, is there a motion for the bill?
I will make a motion. I did hear Ms. Weber make a great statement about looking to strive for the highest. I heard the author say that he's committed to working on that together. And in the spirit of that agreement that you all just made, I'm happy to make the motion to move this forward. Move the bill.
Second.
Yeah, I know. You moved, okay, he seconded, that's right, okay. There's so few of us in the room. If we don't do anything, nothing seems to happen. Okay, roll call, please.
The motion is due pass as amended to the Appropriations Committee. O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Chavez? Kim? McCarty? Santiago? Thurman? Aye. Thurman, aye. Weber?
Aye, because we'll work on it before it gets through appropriations.
Weber, aye. It's on.
I appreciate you. Thanks so very much for coming, Mr. Torlakson, and thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. I think I have one last bill. Okay.
Take care.
out of here.